Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 89th episode of Let's Talk About Market. So, if we see today, the Nifty Index did see a very volatile move, but eventually it ended higher. And all this is happening when the Nifty Index has tested some important support level. So, we already knew that the option chain was saying that somewhere around 25,000 is where an important support level is. So today was the monthly expiry, and we have seen the Nifty index at least defending the 25,000 mark on a closing basis, especially in the futures. So that was something noteworthy. And apart from that, of course, a lot of things will now depend upon how the futures positioning is, and what has been the rollover and so on. But let me just quickly share my screen and talk about the few data points which we have been highlighting for quite some time now. That is swing, average swing, and other sentiment indicators being in oversold zone, and how are they behaving so far. Okay, so I've shared my screen. Please let me know once you all are able to see my screen properly, and once you all are able to hear me properly. Okay, please just confirm in the chat box so that we can get started. So if someone can please confirm in the chat box if you all are able to hear me properly. Yeah, I think I've got the confirmation from one of my teammate. Okay. So now when we look at the Nifty index, see broadly the Nifty index was falling in a channel. Okay. And it was even taking resistance around the 40-hour average and getting sold off. So so currently, the Nifty, sorry, excuse me. So if we see the Nifty index, it has bounced back from the lower end of the channel. Okay. But it is still below the 40 hour exponential average. So, the Nifty index needs to see the it needs to close and sustain above the 40 HEMA to kind of confirm that maybe in the short term this correction is done and it is headed further lower. So we had spoken about this, yeah, in Friday's trading session, right? That the Nifty index had broken the 40 week, and I had mentioned this, that if it has to if this is kind of a false breakdown that we are seeing, then maybe next week it will make a comeback and close above the 40 week. So in that sense, this week becomes a very very important week to watch out for, because firstly we have a budget that is on Sunday, and that will also have a weekly closing in it. I'm not sure how is it handled in our system, but most likely I think, if I'm not wrong, then it is Sunday to Saturday. I think Sunday to Saturday is 1 week. So anyways, we'll see about it. We'll figure out. Just give me a minute. Yeah, we'll figure out what it is. But yes, broadly, the broader idea is that we need to see whether the Nifty index bounces back from this 40 week or no, because in the past, especially, see, if the Nifty index has to go up eventually, then these breakdown won't last long. Now what it does, that needs to be seen, and this time I just don't want to sound extremely bullish or something just looking at the data, but there are few things that I definitely want to share. So see, one thing is that Nifty trying to bounce back from this. If I'm not wrong, I think this should be in a parallel channel. Let me just try. So see, if we see over here, broadly, it is bouncing back. It is bouncing back from the lower end of the channel. I mean, if we draw from high to highs, and if we draw a parallel line, then the other thing is that, as I told you, the swing and the average swing indicators, these are all into the oversold zone, and almost every single sentiment indicators for the short term, especially, these are all in oversold zone. So, in swing we had this divergence, and now it is kind of trying to bounce back. Average swing is also around the lower end of the range. PCR, this is the OI PCR, it is also oversold, and now maybe, I don't know today if it sees some pullback on the upside. Apart from that, if you see the diffusion indicator, so that specifically for Nifty, it did not touch the oversold zone, but like I had mentioned, for all the other indices, it had gone to almost to the single digit as well. I think in small cap that was the case. So it had gone to 9. There was some minor divergence that was formed, and from there it has bounced back. But the percentage of stocks with RMI by that, I think for all the indices went to the oversold zone. So broadly, if we see, if we had 4 or 5 indicators through which we can gauge the short-term sentiment, almost all of them were in oversold zone, and this was a good point to think of a reversal. Of course, today, the way the Nifty index had fallen sharply in the first half, I mean, it was anyone's guess, but eventually those important level of 25,000 was held on the downside, and from there we have seen a good bounce back. So what happens next? uh, now see, I mean, these are all the things that are pointing out that in the near term, at least, okay, I mean, I'm not calling it a bottom, but at least in the near term, maybe today's low could have been an important downside level. The reason why I say that is because the Nifty index has bounced back from the lower end of the channel. A bit more of this will be confirmed once the 40-hour exponential average Nifty breaks above it and sustains above it. Then, with some degree of confidence, we can say that. The only bother point, frankly, for me is the India VIX, which actually today had shot up to almost around 16 levels. But from there, it has seen a nice pullback on the downside. So, it is now kind of sitting at the resistance level. Now, I'm not sure. I mean, what it does. So, if it starts sustaining below the 14 mark, then we can say that maybe, some kind of panic is done over here with this, huge spike over here. And maybe VIX cools off a bit, maybe normalize and go to 11, 12 sort of levels, and that result in the Nifty index, at least stabilizing, if not rising higher. For Nifty index to, confidently say that, okay, maybe some major reversal is possibly done, for that, you would need this high to be broken on the upside, somewhere around 25,800, 850 or so. Because once you do that, what will end up happening is that the RMI by then will get into the bullish zone, and the Nifty index would be trading above the key daily averages as well, and the lower top, low bottom structure which was there, I think, that will also be broken on the upside. So, in that sense, a lot of things will then be confirmed. But until then, I think it is anyone's guess. So, can it happen something like this, that we fall further, or can it bottom out over here and rise higher? That is anyone's guess. I'm not, getting to that point. But the broader point is that if this support zone is held in the near term, at least what you can expect is a pullback in the near term. In case of a pullback, okay, wait, I think the colors have been changed. Normally keep it orange for the Bollinger Bands. And let me remove the background. Okay. So see, if the Nifty, so at least, what we can expect in the near term is a bounce towards the averages. And if the bounce is surpassed, then it is the 61.8% retracement, which I think is somewhere around 25,800 or so, right? 25,820. So broadly, you can catch the range as 25,800 to 25,850. That is the resistance level on the upside that I'll be watching out very closely. And in the near term, I would expect that if this low is held, I'm sorry. So if this low is held, then Nifty index can see a pullback in the coming days. And in this case, basically a lot of panic that we had seen in the near term, those all will subside, and maybe we have a bit of a sustainable pullback, which can probably last for a week or more than a week, and then we take it from there as to how things approaches. Okay, so that's how I'm thinking at this point of time. Even the bank Nifty index, is now again trying to claim back the 40 day, and more importantly, from the 20 week at least, it is trying to bounce back. So, in that sense, I mean, there are many important things that can happen this week. I mean, which is firstly the Nifty index, which had broken the 40 week and it is trying to reclaim 40 weeks. So, whether it manages to do that successfully or no, that needs to be seen. Then, as I told you, I mean, Bank Nifty, I think mid cap also had fallen to below 40. What it does over here would be important to see. Small caps, though, anyways, it was gone. But yeah, I mean, we should surely get some insights, especially for the Nifty, Bank Nifty, which are important ones. And small cap 500 also, it had broken, so it had almost fall. I mean, the pattern of mid cap and 500 is near about the same, but again, needs to be seen what it does over here. Uh, so yeah, broadly, I think this is what I'll be watching out for, and of course, see, in I think in Friday's trading session we were talking about autos, right? Auto has seen a meaningful correction today because of the whatever that EU India free trade agreement that has been signed. So see, price action will kind of tell you the story before, because if you see the indices, if you see this indices on a weekly chart, the auto was anyways losing momentum, right? You can see for the last 2 weeks it was losing momentum, and now again, I mean, this week we need to see what it does. But this is what typically happens. So if at all, some sector is going to give up, it will give us those indication. And as of now, auto seems to be giving that indication. Sorry. So auto seems to be giving that indication, so you need to be careful of that. And I'm specifically a bit more cautious also on auto, because it was holding this 40-day so well in this entire up move, and now it is sustaining. So and plus, all this is happening while it has broken above the previous high, and then it has come down. So is it overstretched and all? I don't know, but there is definitely a risk that is there, and this risk will further get, I mean, accentuated if the 40-week breaks on the downside, and we kind of see a correction. But it's again at a very very important point, and you need to watch very carefully. This actually, what I'm seeing is a BSC's auto. What can possibly happen, and this is where you need to keep a close eye, is that, see, I hope this does not happen, but can it form something like this? I'm not too sure, and I am guessing all this because auto was the one which was performing very very nicely, after those GST rate cuts and all those happened. And now, even in RRG, there seems to be some sort of weakness, and that is where I'm guessing. So yeah, I mean, that is there. And see, we are starting to see some dip in IT. I'm not sure, I mean, how sustainable this is. So of course we'll have to look at the charts and also decide, because all of this is in relative terms as well. So it can so happen that the Nifty index rises higher slowly, not at the pace of Nifty index. So even that can lead to the dip in momentum. So you have to understand everything is in relative terms over here. Okay, we need to find in absolute terms what is happening, and for that you will always fall back on chart to get those confirmation. Okay, but as of now, the sectors that you see strong is PSU Bank. Then again, metal was 3% up, and you can see over here it has made a new high. I think many of the people who were repeatedly asking whether is it a top for metal, is it done, not done, and so on. I think the answer is here, and this is where relative strength plays a very very important role. These sectors were outperforming, and now when the Nifty is kind of stabilizing or even trying to inch higher a bit, these are the sectors that are moving pretty well. Okay, the only one sector I think, this of course is related to budget also, which is the capital goods space. I think broadly, if we speak about the budget, it seems like the capital expenditure for the government may not be that great. At least the rate of change, which is the year on year change, might not move the needle much for the cap goods stocks. And many of the cap goods stocks are not looking well and kind of giving up. I mean, today I was seeing Cummins India again, over here. If you see the early chart, I think I was going through some scanner or something and I saw over here. But broadly, it seems to be giving up. We have already spoken for some other cap goods as well. ABB over here, this entire consolidation seems to have broken on the downside, right? So there are some sort of some weakness seen over here. Now need to see how things translate, but this is also another index which is kind of giving us that red flag that maybe it has gone up way too much, and we need to be a little careful over here. Apart from that, reality also, I think no signs of reversal. What might just happen is that there might be some pullback and it can again drift lower. So we need to be careful of that. Broadly, if I draw a channel, something like this. Now I'm not sure if it can go all the way till here, but that is what seems to be visible at this point of time. And even if I have to take a retracement from an important low, which is over here, so far it has done 50% and 61.8% comes over here. So I'm not sure, but the broader idea is that this is not doing that well, and this sector, I mean, which is the reality, is not doing that well, and you need to be a little careful. Okay, so I think that's how the approach would be. Specifically, look out for the outperformers, because I think a lot will get distinguished in this quarterly result. Maybe if we end up finding some sectorial theme, then good. Else, what might end up happening is the stocks which might have done well, they may continue to do well, especially on the result front, which have done well, they may do well. But the ones where is disappointment, I mean, they'll be bashed. That is what the feeling I get looking at this. So yeah, I mean, with that, if you'll have any questions, let's take it up. Praveen says charting will start from Sunday to Saturday, so it will. Yeah, so let's see how it gets adjusted. Even I don't remember what logic we had kept, or I don't know if we are keeping any logic or TradingView does it from its own backend. Needs to be seen. Uh, Rame, can you explain the OI indicator and valuation indicator? Sure, Ramesh. So, OI indicator basically suggests how people are positioned for a stock in the futures. So, broadly, what we tend to think is that if the prices go down, so see, first thing is that I don't see OI from a 1 day perspective. Okay, I see it more from a positional perspective. Okay, so because I feel that people tend to build position in futures more from a positional point of view, not for a day or two or three kind of view. Okay, so broadly, say for example, if we see something like say TCS. Okay, so when you see this, that the prices are going down and the open interest is going up, broadly you would assume that this is more of a short built up that is there. And so when there are shorts and the shorts reach kind of an extreme, now you would ask me what is an extreme. So as I have told, I mean multiple times in the webinar as well, that there is no such extreme as such. You have to correlate with the price action. If at all there are signs of a reversal, then it can lead to a short covering rally. And similarly, I mean, if the prices are rising higher, I think Bajaj Auto was a case of that. Not recently, but so if you see Bajaj Auto in this phase, basically when the prices are rising higher, open interest is rising higher, you would assume that it is a long built up. And broadly that is what the framework is. Okay, so you have to see a certain period and try to assess whether it's a long built up, short built up, and so on. That will help you to get an insight of how people are positioned, and then you can play the technical charts as to what they say. And with the benefit of open interest, if at all there are shorts and the prices and the price action shows reversal, then then it's a candidate for a short covering rally. Similarly, if there is a huge long build up that has happened and there is a breakdown happening, then it can lead to long unwinding. And that is again, you need to be careful of those scenarios. So that is on open interest. If you say valuation, so valuation is nothing but the function of how the valuations have behaved in the past. What it means is that, say for example, now see, I mean, I'm avoiding taking PE because in pandemic the PE ratio had gone haywire. But say for example, if you take Nifty price to book, okay, so Nifty price to book, you can say that from a historical perspective, I mean, we are not at a very oversold zone or anything, but in fact, we are at a long term average. If you see the price to book earnings, okay. Now, the point is that when it goes to above this red line or so, we can say that the valuations are extremely stretched. And then, if the price action gives a reversal on the downside, then we have to be very, very careful. Similarly, when the price action is towards the lower end of its range, which is this dark green line, then we can kind of say that it is coming to a very good value zone. And maybe buying over here could be fruitful if we have a medium to long term view. So I think that is how the valuations are. And we have done so see, this was a brief explanation about what you had asked. There are detailed webinars that we have done. One is on strike valuation setup, and the other one is an future rollover or OI interpretation. You can go through those videos, and I'm sure it will help you to get some insights. Apurva Singh, are we still open to 5A? See, I don't want to comment elite way over here. This is more of a strike uh, live session that we are doing, and we are trying to come up with an objective view looking at the data points that we see on strike. Okay, i I hope, because see, what we do at India charts and what we are doing over here, I mean, that is little different. Okay, so I don't want to mix the two. I hope you understand. Siva says thank period. Yeah, thanks, Shiva. I think it's a good learning curve for me as well to do all those regular updates, because even I have to remember what I have said, and I have to keep looking for the data points. So it kind of helps me as well to sort of understand how, I mean, how the sentiment is and how things are playing out in the market. So it's a good learning exercise for me as well. Any other questions you all have? Okay, I can't see any questions. So fine. I think since I can't see any question, we'll wind up the day for today. We'll wind up for today, and we'll catch up tomorrow at 5 p.m. and see what the Nifty index does next. But the 40 hour exponential average, which I think is let me check the exact level. Of course, these will be dynamic level, but the 40-hour exponential average, which is currently around 25,267, that will be the immediate resistance. I think if the Nifty index manages to go above that, then we can say that maybe in the short term the bottom is made and we can see a pullback. Meanwhile, I think Siva says Nifty didn't break the low, broke below. Okay. Yeah. So of course, I mean they have Nifty index has just touched around its previous low and bounced back. So I mean you can argue that it did not break or so, but it was more or less it had touched that. So in that sense, it's good that that support is held. And of course, yes, as you pointed out, there was this small intermarket divergence that we had seen in Nifty, Bank Nifty. But what happens around the 40-hour exponential average, that will be very, very important to see. And of course, VIX so far is above the 14 for 2 days. So that needs to cool off as well if we have to see some stability. So let's see how things unfold, and that's what we'll catch up tomorrow and we'll monitor, and we'll see all the data points that we have spoken about in the last 2 to 3 days, how it has unfolded. And how are they unfolding, and more importantly how people are positioned after the monthly expiry has ended. So let's catch up tomorrow and together see how things unfold. So that's it from my side. We'll meet tomorrow at exact 5 p.m. Thank you.